What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be talking about the XRP price chart along with the Bitcoin price chart as prices found some footing yesterday as markets opened wildly to the downside for the stock market when it opened Sunday evening, Monday morning. Then as the day progressed for the first time since last Wednesday, things stabilized. And here we are in pre-market right now. We're up about 700 points for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The Russell's up 25. The NASDAQ is up 266 as the cascading price behavior that took place for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday has, at least for now, taken a pause. Now, in yesterday's video, I discussed really, when doing this type of price behavior, areas of interest to pay attention to, of course, are back here at the high in order for some type of setup for still being distribution rollover, or down here at these lows, setting up for more of like a retracement style behavior happening in here. I still don't think we have the answer for that. Things are very volatile. Obviously, we had a green day happen here yesterday and just intraday price action that happened here in the stock market. It opened down like 1,700 points, then it fired up 2,600 points, then it fell 2,000 points, then it rose over 1,000 points, and that volatility just kept going. And like in normal times, if we saw a single day with a 1,000 point rise in it, we'd make a really big deal out of that day, let alone any type of day that had 2,500 points or a move down of 2,000 points. But we are just doing intraday swings of 800, 700, back and forth, back and forth. And so it's obviously been very, very volatile as the market's trying to find its footing. And, the thing, of course, I think about a lot is many times when prices are moving down very aggressively. I talked about this in yesterday's video, that very often the first bounce, it looks pretty convincing, and then it just kind of rolls over, and then it eventually finds the true low after that. And that's always the real hard part when we're going down so aggressively, is if that one more big move still has to come in here. And especially after we get like a decent size bounce off of there, because then it feels worse because, we've already seen that. Just getting back down to the lows again, it's a 2,500 point move. The concepts of it still being kind of a prolonged period up here, but there's still being a lot of rotation happening in here, is for it to try to find its footing really relatively soon after a big breakout has taken place from this range. Alternatively, if there's still more room to go down here and it's kind of just a little ricochet here off these lows, and then there's still one more, push to take it down in here, then, we're looking at more of things like retracements happening in here. My thoughts are worst case scenario, really that's what we're looking at, is we're looking at some type of retracement at some point. But the big question is, have we finished the capitulation just yet? And I think that's kind of where we're stuck at. And that's the challenge for me coming on here talking and trying not to overtalk myself and say too much. That's also an issue over here with XRP on whether or not there's still a capitulation. An idea I had for myself was, if we break through the 200-day moving average, I've got to stop for 20% of my bag. If it plows through it, it'll hit the stop and then be able to grab some lower. Prices recovered very quickly and now sits right back on top of it right now. I've now closed this idea out. So this idea is not sold any longer. While I do think it is still logical, probable, I think it's going to happen, that it's still going to come down in here. The concept of this idea was to really break it and then be able to grab it at these lows. Like an idea of that is something like this. If it takes out the break, buy it down at a support, right? Then if it comes back and it finds some resistance at it, okay, remain in there. But as you can see, it wicks through it. It pulls right back through here. It stays there. It closes here. I'm not going to keep this going. While I do still think it's the most likely thing that's going to happen, is that we are going to see down in here really just coming on the YouTube channel and saying, hey, yeah, I know it did that, but it's staying on top of here. I'm going to stay in this thing anyway. That's not really something that I can find repeatable. Like if we came onto the channel and we said, hey, this thing has done this 100 times, it breaks back down through it, it comes back on top of it and stays there, it keeps going. It's not repeatable. You know what I mean? Like, would you take a shot 100 times of doing that and then sitting here and then saying, yeah, well, we're going to set a stop loss 14% to the upside. We're going to chase 20% to the downside. We've got a little bit over a risk to reward ratio of 1 to 1. It's just not repeatable. And it's not something I would want to come on here. Like if we were doing retracements or something and we got back to retracements and it's like, yeah, it's a totally different story. But we're, trying, this is trying to catch capitulation is what this is. This channel has never been a trade calling channel. I don't want it to turn into that. It attracts a very specific audience that I'm just totally not interested in obtaining. But the nice thing was to see that it didn't like get slammed by it. It's usually very concerning when you can plow through these things, back test it on the underside, and then keep on going. The concerns with the XRP price chart are just, of course, these daily candle closes of the range, right? It's still been able to maintain all these daily closes here. Price did pull down. It's still sitting down in here. It's on top of the 200-day moving average. I'm not so sure the 200-day moving average really has any more meaning at this point. As I brought up there yesterday in the YouTube video and like on Twitter about capitulations happening and capitulation structures removing the Trump pump and dump. Prices have really acted like what happens when you're heading into a capitulation moment. We've really already seen all phases in here, and that's where we've entered into in here. And that's a challenge of it too, because there was such a strong push back up in these prices over here for XRP for what you would have thought would have just stayed lower and then taken the plunge in here. So I still think that plunge is going to happen, but like wave count wise, I'm struggling on that. And I think it just stems from a lot of the unknowns throughout the whole markets right now. I think we're all still waiting to see if stocks have bottomed. I reflect back on this of like doing the YouTube channel of like how big of an event is what we're experiencing right now, right? And this is certainly on the level of C19 in regards to price action, like on the level of like what capitulation moments have been like at the end of bear markets, like in 2018 or 2022. Right? These are all very, very intense moments that are happening in markets right now. These are not your standard, hey, this is a strong correction. We see these every year or so, right? This is once every like 4 or 5 years style stuff. And so when it comes to crypto or XRP or Bitcoin, a lot of it, I think, really stems back to we're going to have to see something come out of this thing. I've often described it as that, if you could figure out the macro picture, then you could figure out the crypto picture and how this time has been so different because we didn't see an expansionary movement happen in broader stocks. Well, now I think we still have to figure out the macro landscape and the macro picture of what's going to happen with stocks and if they're going to settle. And then for the crypto picture on this, when it's back into retracement levels, right? Or if this is more like what happens with rotational tops happening in here. Because one of these, right, rotational tops, that's quite bullish for crypto, right? That means there's still a really good chance that there's like still even bull run potential left in the cryptocurrency market. And that this is actually exactly what you would expect to happen in the stock market as there becomes a big capital redistribution throughout the equity market, in which it moves away from the Mag 7 and distributes itself broadly throughout the market once the correction is over. This is exactly what you would expect. But in the event that if prices come down way lower, then we're just really kind of setting ourselves up for more of like a retracement to happen in here. And that really brings into doubt on how much like capital redistribution and reallocation happens throughout the market and what does that really actually mean for crypto. And so that's the challenge of crypto right now, because in one circumstance, we could have already bottomed. And if we've already bottomed, then hey, that's great for crypto. And then another circumstance is like, hey, if we haven't bottomed, we go down here, well, what do you think is going to happen to crypto? I can tell you it's probably going to take a pretty steep move down. And it's hard to believe that all of this just started like 5 days ago, 5.5 days ago. And you go back to just last Wednesday and we're right there. And right, obviously we're having to process a whole lot very quickly. And then the variables of saying, within the next 2 days, right, what I think is the market going to freak out today with Trump's tariffs, right? They're supposed to go into effect tomorrow. What negotiation announcements are going to get made today? What aren't going to be? Right? All that's going to be announced between today and tomorrow. So don't think for half a second the volatility here is done. This little move right here that only lasted for like 5 minutes of 2,000 points was simply on a Twitter rumor that Trump was going to delay the tariffs by 90 days, which ended up being fake, just like we've seen over here on crypto, right? And it takes it all back. So the market's hanging on the edge of its seat right now on what to do. And big moves can happen on any type of news catalyst in this particular moment. And that even creates a lot of challenges for taking trades, right, too. If you're going to have risk management on taking any type of specific trade, you could get swung one way or the other way very quickly. And so, last night when I was laying in bed, I've got my own YouTube videos that I watch, and I'm very honored and humbled that I get to be a part of your day, and I'm part of your YouTube experience for a lot of you every single day. And there's those same things for me when I'm laying in bed. I've got like my gardening videos, I've got my silver and gold videos that I like to watch. I like to watch a lot of weather stuff with like tornadoes and whatnot. But when I click on my subscription list, I see all my like coin people, right? Like the silver and the gold people, and all their videos are like, price is down. Oh no, what's next? And I'm just thinking to myself, brother, I'm not watching that. I'm exhausted. And I think, right, like the news is just obviously getting pounded in your face. Right? You got extreme price action happening throughout markets. You've got news just nonstop. Like a week's worth of news comes at you every 2 hours right now. But, big picture with like things like Bitcoin, of course, right? Like we talked about this yesterday. It just, it still sits on top of the March high over in here. And I don't think we invalidate the idea that we've just ABC'd throughout in here and that it's working on that. Unless if we go dipping, of course, below the 200-week moving average and we, start closing candles below there. Or if, we go take out the previous all-time high at, $69,000-$70,000. And so, well, it's been an exhausting week for sure when it comes to news and when it comes to price action and everything. I mean, it really is just kind of crazy, though, that Bitcoin and crypto has held up the way it has. Obviously, that's not the case for all assets in the crypto market, but that there has been sectors of strength happening there in the crypto market still throughout all of this. I think we're just really in the midst of a moment of getting through the next couple of days and seeing things kind of shake themselves out. So I have some ideas over here on what's happening with the equity markets. Either way, right, both of them are just looking at it through the lens of like, this is the popping of the Mag 7. If there's still another capitulation event to come out throughout the market, right, then we're looking at still probably quite some time of retracement activity happening throughout here, which we'll see upward action in markets for the foreseeable future once we get to that moment. And then maybe there's a chance here we're actually better off than maybe we think we are, and that there's still going to be a lot of rotation and distribution still happening here for the foreseeable future. And so it's just about getting through these next few days really to see how things react. And whenever I think it looks like super clear, I will definitely come on here and communicate it. But these are the main things I'm paying attention to right now outside of any particular crypto chart or any type of particular thing happening with Bitcoin or XRP or anything. The message has really always been have the macro picture. You could probably figure out everything else. I think right now with the macro picture, it's trying to figure out in the coming days, have we already hit it? Are we going to find our footing here? Or is this just like a temporary bounce that we're seeing right here before we then have the finishing of the capitulation? And I just think that's where we're at right now. And we're watching and we know we're just in a volatile news environment. And all of it has really kind of led up to what will happen today and tomorrow in regards to the headlines, right? So we'll keep an eye on it and we'll check in on it again tomorrow. Otherwise, Bitcoin still on top of that 50-week moving average above the March of 2024 high, and XRP, even though flushing through that 200-day moving average, still sits right on top of it. Well, we all wait to see what happens with stocks here in the next couple of days. So we'll check on it each day and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. In the meantime, of course, this is where I tell you, go check out the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com, which you should. But also, make sure you're taking breaks from all of this stuff, right? Make sure you're getting outside, getting some exercise. When we increase our screen time like this, and we're spending so much time looking at all this stuff, it can mess with us psychologically too. So make sure you're taking breaks, enjoying real life, and this stuff will always be here when we get back to it. So I got this video out very early today because I have a lot going on in my life today. As you guys know, tax season is here. How fun. Get to deal with all that in the midst of all of this. But otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. So check out the newsletter. There's a link in the description of this video. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.